Hello and welcome to this Captivate session brought to you by the Contemporary Archive Project with the support of the National Arts Council. My name is Mbusi Mzolo and I'm part of the CAP team. In this session we have Paige Furness presenting Still Dreams in conversation with host Mbusi Mzolo. Enjoy.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this presentation by Paige Furness. The title of the presentation, as you can see on the screen, is Still Dreams. And that's play on words, or the title comes from Paige creating these dreamlike visuals based on everyday events and framing the world as she sees it, and then having those images appear as how she sees the world. And so it's like still dreams, so dreams that are not in motion. It's just like still photographs, and then creating these beautiful universes that you'll see in the images that Paige will present. I'm not sure I've said my name, but my name is Mbusi Mzolo, and I'll be the host for this presentation. Starting Paige, who is a self-taught photographer with an interest in chasing beauty and finding beauty in the most mundane of things, and just presenting beautiful things. And then we'll also, along the way, we'll try and find the deeper meaning to the images that she composes, and we'll go into the technical elements of how she produces these visual compositions, and more that we're also open to questions from the audience to make this as interactive as possible, because as much as it's about Paige presenting her work, it's also about giving the audience something to look forward to and have them engaged. And hopefully this is interesting and insightful for everyone who's tuning in right now, and the people who watch this on YouTube once it has been uploaded. And with that, I will pass it on to Paige to introduce herself, and then we'll start with the presentation.
Cool. Thanks, Mbusi. Yeah, thank you for saying what you've already said. I agree with all of those things. I think you summarized like kind of what I'd like to do and why really well there. Yeah, I've been taking photos for as long as I can remember, like since I was really young. I remember always being like drawn to adults' cameras that were lying around. So whenever there was like an opportunity, I was always like nagging them to use it. And I can't remember like why. I just remember it was very exciting to me. There was something about photographing that I really just like, I was always wanted to do. And yeah, basically if like somebody had a digital camera around, I was like, oh my God, like running around taking lots of photos. So that's kind of for context of when I decided I liked doing it. And then sort of, which I'm sure we'll touch on it more later, but the sort of editing and things started to become part of that later, when I discovered editing and how much possibility is there. Yeah, so photography's basically always been a big part of my life. And I've gone through phases where I've done more of it and less of it. Currently been in a phase where I've done a bit less of it than I would like, but I'm grateful for this because I think it's sort of re-inspired me a little bit again. And yeah, I don't know. I think I always struggle with the who am I question, but that's like a little intro. Yeah, I will start whenever is a good time. Shall I go with
Thanks for the introduction. So the presentation is divided into three sections, just letting the audience know it's divided into beauty, transformation, and escapism. Those are the subjects that we aim to explore through this presentation, and Paige will go through a selection of images under those categories, and then there will be space for questions after each episode of the presentation. If you have questions as you see the images, please just write them down on the chat, or if you prefer to have the mic passed on so that you can orally ask the questions, that's also an option. And yes, Paige, you can start the presentation.
Cool. There we go. The cover, which I decided to start with because it's probably one of my favorite images. And yeah, I've written there photography as an extension of how I experience the world, because I thought that that was a good way to, like, if I really, really had to summarize how I see it as like a practice, that would maybe be what I would choose to say and just how to describe it, because it's really, it's sort of, it's like encapsulating how I like walk around the world most of the time and like see things in an emotional, on an emotional level. So yeah, I thought that was maybe a good way to get into it. It's yeah, sort of seeing the world with my own personal little lens, I guess. And then yeah, this one I took at obviously the beachfront early morning, and I don't know, there was something really beautiful about that morning, because I think I'm not really a morning person, but I woke up super early that day, and I was super excited to take my camera. Actually, I think this was a morning when I was doing a commission series for Pat Duff, who I see is on this call. This was one of the, just part of the shooting to get what we were kind of trying to create together, with his direction. This wasn't one of the images that formed the final pieces, but it was just something that I got along the way, along with many others. So that whole project was awesome because I ended up shooting a lot for it and finding myself waking up at 4 a.m, which I never do. And yeah, around that time I made a few trips to the beachfront and was just really enjoying that space, I guess. So layered, and this is such a simple sort of moment that I don't know, it felt, yeah, this picture to me kind of feels quite spiritual in a way. It's like a bit of a morning cleansing ritual sort of feeling. So yeah, that's kind of the story behind this one, kind of like diving into a new day, which were all of these things that I was feeling that morning as well. Yeah, it felt like a hopeful start to the day, and this picture kind of feels hopeful to me. Shall I move on? Is it kind of at my own pace?
Yes, yeah, please just go through the selection of the images, maybe
Cool.
3, and then I'll
Okay,
ask questions and also allow
cool.
the audience to
Let me go.
participate. Yes.
This one I took of my friend Mia, my dearest friend, and her and I used to take a lot of photos together. This is one of them that I really love. And I've said there a sense of childlike wonder, because that's also kind of important, I think, in what photography is to me. It's like looking around and freezing moments of time that feel quite, yeah, just like I'm looking through the eyes of a child. Some more of the pier. Okay.
Please go back to the image with the beer bottle and
On the
the
beach.
yeah, that was because we had a chat about
Yeah.
this one, I think 2 days ago, about how it looks like it was staged, but you just found this there and you thought of making an image because you saw beauty in the composition, and
Mm,
it also just creates this story of this is a beautiful image, but what happened before you made the picture, or what led to this beer bottle being at the beach, like the issue about pollution and all those things, but you don't see that when you look at this image. So maybe please just go into how you don't plan of making these images, but
mm,
you are just led by intuition on how to
right.
document, and how much of it is planned and how much of it is just based on feeling, and also the process of editing once you have
Mm,
documented the image.
cool. Yeah. I think this was on that same morning mission, or one of them around that time. I think I just walked past this exactly as it was. Maybe I moved the beer bottle slightly to center it like a few centimeters. I can't remember, but it was kind of there. And then I'm definitely always drawn to reflections or light, or things that glow. Um, I'm not sure if you guys can hear the drumming in the background. Just wanted to double check. It's kind of loud.
No, you're all good, Paige. Don't worry.
Awesome. So yeah, I think it just caught my eye, and I thought it was kind of just an interesting contrasting scene. And it felt like a little set, almost like the backdrop, that like whatever that frame, transparent glass thing is, it almost feels like a behind the scenes shot of like a little beer bottle on set, like breaking the third wall or something. It's like a weird, yeah, I just find it interesting, I think. And sort of the contrast between like the beer bottle, which kind of has like a, I mean, depending on, yeah, how you look at things, kind of a bit of a darker connotation with, you know, like especially when it's on the beach with and pollution and substance issues. Yeah, I just found it to be an interesting kind of a little bit like a mysterious scene, because I still don't know, I don't know what or why that thing is behind it. So I think I'm drawn to things that feel a little bit maybe contradictory or yeah, contrasting, and I just found the different objects in that setting to be that. And then the editing side of it, yeah, I mean, I think I ended up choosing this one out of quite a few different frames that I took. And I think I edited it months later because I think I get indecisive, and then I come back to things a lot later sometimes. But I just sort of played with it until the colors felt sort of dreamy and the glow was exaggerated. But I think I might have also missed or forgotten, or maybe not seen the like value in it all until I'd sat down in front of it like later on as well, which often happens with my photos. And I'll take them and then notice more about them later when I'm sitting with them in front of me. And then as I kind of progress through editing and playing, you know, they kind of I kind of give them even more meaning as I go along. And yeah, I think I play with color and lights just in general until it reaches a point that feels where I feel something, like without any real plan. It's sort of just like an intuitive thing that happens through quite literally playing. That's how I see my photography, but especially like the editing part of it. And maybe we'll touch more on this just now, Mbusi, but yeah, with the thing of escape, which it does feel like that, especially in the sitting and editing, and I'm getting like lost and immersed. Sometimes I want to call it more like immersion than like actually escaping from something specific. Yeah.
Thank you. We have Olani Doli. I think they have a question or a comment they would like to make. After Olani's comment or question, please just touch on the captions from the previous slides. Olani, you can speak.
Hello, everyone. Greetings.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you, Mbusi Mzolo. Ne? Yeah, I have a question here. I wanted to know, Paige, what inspired you to work on this project? I think it's titled Still Dreams, ne? Yeah, because I was still digesting on the previous image, and I felt like you were like too quick. I was trying,
Okay.
like the text helped me to get a better understanding of some of the images. One, because like I'm working on this project, it's titled Spirituality is Freedom. So I've been studying to curate or to create these images how can I use like photography as a tool to bridge the physical world with the spiritual world? And I think you mentioned some cleansing, some ritual, some spiritual elements in there. I don't know if you thought.
In that
Yeah.
first image, I think thank you for your question, and sorry for going too fast. I think I need to find a healthy balance. Either it's too slow or too fast. But did you say the title is spirituality is physical?
He asked how you linked the first image to spirituality because he's also working on a project, I
Yeah.
think, titled Spirituality is Freedom. So
Oh, it's freedom. Okay.
I'd like to know how you
Yeah.
matched those two worlds, or how you were able to find the spiritual element in that image, and whether it's something you can share, or if it's something that's personal and he would also have to go through his own process of finding that, because it might not be the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
And I mean, that was, yeah, I guess for your Olani, your project, that's like an overarching theme, where for me that it was just more something about that first photograph that felt spiritual, like this sort of diving into, and this like visceral, like kind of physical space of like diving into the ocean, like in a way that is starting your day, so like a cleansing kind of and ritual. So yeah, I'm not too sure. I think
I,
maybe I
yeah, I think for Tolani's question, it would need like some time, maybe outside of this presentation. So for us not to spend, not that we are discounting his question, but I think for it to receive the attention it deserves, it will be something that you engage with outside of the presentation.
yeah,
So
feel free to
yeah, we
follow me.
can
I'll follow you back so
arrange.
we can chat else
Yeah,
outside of
please
yeah.
move with the presentation, and with the images that have captions, just please spend maybe 30 seconds going through
Okay.
the captions. And if anyone else in the audience feels like Paige is moving too fast, please let us know, and then we'll get that handled for you.
Okay. So, I mean, I've spoken about this image, but just to very briefly touch on what I've written there, which, these captions, obviously, some of them, they apply to different images, like multiple images. I've said, yeah, engaging with the world around me through photographing and reinterpreting, which sort of, I feel like I'm doing through my photography. I know the word escaping comes up a lot, and I have, and still do in ways, thought about the practice for me as something escapey, and like that there's escape in it, and I think there is in ways, but then there's also, like, on the other hand, actually, like, the opposite. It's like actually engaging with the world. It's like a relationship with things and with the world, and almost like, I don't want to say studying, but like looking at things and thinking about them and feeling things about them. And that begins during the process of taking photos, and then it definitely continues importantly into the transformation process, and when I'm sitting with images and deciding how to reinterpret them. Yeah, I'm going to move on. So this one I took at the Roma Revolving Restaurant, which I love. I love the kitsch decor there, and anywhere there's kitsch decor, I'm definitely drawn to like the frilliness of it. This this shot of the bar stool chairs, there was something about the color, definitely, and the sort of moody low light that drew me in. Sort of this row of chairs, and the one at the end had this sort of more light shining on it. Again, kind of just feels like moody and a little mysterious, obviously out of context. Which I guess is another interesting thing. It's like sometimes in those moments, as much as I'm seeing beautiful potential or things, it also becomes something quite different when it's sort of taken out of context. Like looking at the image, it could be anywhere, I guess. It's like it looks more cool and mysterious without seeing what's around it. And I like that sort of framing things in a specific way can kind of get your imagination going about like, where is it? What is it? Why? Like, reframing the mundane through color and composition. I think I've kind of touched on why I wrote that there.
Yes.
This one is an oldie that was on a cruise ship, which was one of my favorite little photography moments that I've had in my life, where this cruise ship was like kitsch galore, kitsch deluxe. There was just so many frills, and I was in heaven. I just love the curtain. I think if I remember correctly, it was a little less saturated and more sort of muted blues in the background. I kind of intensified that, and the little pair of chairs I just thought was sweet, a sweet frame to make. Kind of also symmetry. I am really drawn to symmetrical scenes. The two empty chairs I just thought were cute, and it's like, who was sitting in them, or who was going to sit in them next. I think that's all on that. A space between natural and man-made worlds. This one, I do feel like that line applies more broadly, but this image specifically, it's kind of like almost like feels like a perfect balance, or like a good balance of those two sides. It was I took it in the reflection of a big piece of glass where there was trees and forest behind it, and inside the room that I was standing in was this lampshade, the ceiling light, and again the like sort of frilly light cover was definitely a draw for me. And then the plants outside, which obviously were green, and then I had a lot of fun just changing that all around and making this scene that was partly natural and outdoor and partly indoor and man-made, kind of bringing it together and then almost making it like a whole new world where it is like maybe this perfect balance between natural and man-made. Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of caught between like those worlds in a big way a lot of the time. Like obviously we all have to live in the city and I want to, a big part of me wants to, but then I also have like this like huge longing for like living in a forest somewhere. So I don't know, maybe that's what I was doing when I made this picture, kind of creating this like balanced little world that's like the perfect mixture between the two. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Before you continue, please just touch on the process of making these images. So you have the image that you use as a reference, and then the one that you edit and transform and create a new world. And this is something we also discussed on whether you consider that the new version a copy of the source image, or whether it's something that exists completely on its own, and why your views
Yeah.
like why you view it as such.
I definitely think that it's something that exists on its own with this and with any other picture that I've done quite a bit of like editing with. And to put that into like perspective, I wouldn't really worry so much about like keeping the original of this image. I know that was how you asked me about this, Mbusi, the other day. You were like, do you keep the originals? And yeah, sure, sometimes I do, but they are a bit, kind of less important to me once I've made something and edited and transformed something into what I want it to be and feel like and look like. So I think that to get here, it was again experimenting. I think it started as a pink version. Yeah, I had a pink version, which I also really like, but I think I kind of, I went through different stages of like editing, and then I got my pink version and I was like, cool, this is great. And then came back to it later and just again kept playing around, and then got to the red and I felt like maybe that was my favorite. And basically got there through, playing in Lightroom and Photoshop over hours or days, it's kind of spaced out, and using lots of layers and even brushes and various tools, and just trying different things until I got to where I wanted it to be. But I think it definitely stands on its own. I think the things that I make stand on their own. I don't think they're copies, or I think they are different versions of the original photo, but I think that it's so much about the transformation or what goes into it after taking it, that version just becomes a lot more important. And
Thank you. And the subject, the beauty subject, topic of beauty is something that weirdly enough is stigmatized. Like if you are chasing beauty, there's something missing. But what you have shown with the images and sharing the stories behind them is that in your pursuit of beauty, there is deeper meaning, or there are things that you are trying to deal with more than how the pictures end up looking. So please you touched on this earlier about how the process of making these images is such an immersive thing that through your escaping, you immerse yourself even further into the world that you are trying to escape from, and then you end up building these totally new universes. And I know it sounds like these are things that are not cohesive, but if you can, please just try and break it down for us how this complex process unfolds. And even though the end result is this pretty picture, but the steps it takes to reach this level of beauty is quite layered. So if we can just unpack a few of those steps and how much of it has impacted your process.
Yeah, you spoke about beauty. Obviously, that's a big theme because, yeah, I feel like it is really all about, at the core, kind of beauty, which is both on an aesthetic level, but then also, the beauty of life, of the world, of sweet moments, or, etc. But yeah, beauty on a visual level is obviously like a big part of it. And so many things are beautiful for me. Like when I go for a walk, I'm like looking at all kinds of things and just like in awe. That's just how, yeah, I walk around and I'm just seeing like all of these beautiful things. And I obviously, as many of us do, and I just want to capture that and like exaggerate it. And again, like tying back to seeing things through like the eyes of a child, where or like you just, everything's just more extreme, and beauty included, and beauty especially. Can you help guide me back to the other part of your question, please?
It was the other part of my question was you escaping, but also immersing yourself in the world that you are leaving through interacting with it, because you are transforming that world and developing a new world, but you're also spending even more time with the world you're getting away from. So it's
Yeah.
if it's something that you can articulate in, because it's just an interesting process to, and you did touch on this earlier that you, so I would just like to find out whether you have any more points around that as far as how that happens and what steps it takes.
There's
And
kind of,
uh,
sorry.
yeah, thank you. So after you've answered that question, I would just like to let the audience know that you'll go through the last batch of images, and then they can start preparing their questions or comments, because we are close to wrap-up time. So if anyone has questions, please prepare those. You can also write them in the chat or raise your hand. And yeah, so yeah, that was the other part of my question.
Cool. So yeah, I guess there definitely are those two parts. It's like the engaging with the world on one hand, and then kind of, I don't want to say like running away, because I don't actually think it is. I used to, but now I'm like, it's just it's yeah, the experiencing the world and facing it, and then there is like the dreaming up new worlds side. And I just think that both of them are, oh, sorry, I think I accidentally closed that, are just equally important and present parts in what I do. Yeah. I'm just double checking. You can still see the presentation, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, and I think with the escape question and topic, oh, sorry, I'm just going to move through as I speak. It's more creative play, and it feels like I'm in another world when I'm doing that. And it's just, I think I said earlier, like just a more of like an immersion and expression, form of expression, and than like escaping or running. So this is more beachfront, and the building man-made elements kind of blended in a scene with the classic Durban palm trees, which I just really love. I love that building. Always look at that building when I'm there. I did change it a little, change the colors, but it really is just that whole stretch of buildings on the promenade. So cool. I love them. Love the Art Deco Durban architecture, and the palm trees. I'm going to move through. This is another one that sort of obviously has like natural elements and then very much man-made elements. And then with bringing those things together also, I've written here a space between documentation and creation, which I think I have sort of already covered in some of the things I've said, but it's the taking photos of things, of sort of usual things. So, documenting, and then, but then there being this other like layer on top of it where it's not just taking a photo, it's transforming it and reimagining it and sitting with it and pondering on it, and maybe realizing or dreaming up the potential of it, and the possibilities, and then making something new. Like this building, I was going to the dentist, and it was the first time there, and I walked into the building and I was just like, wow, this building's really cool. There was so many staircases, and it's not actually there's no pink in it, and you know, the color scheme's kind of different. But when I walked in, I mean, I wish I'd had a wider lens on me in a way, because it is just like really grand, and there's like all this light coming through from the top. And I just walked in and I was like, whoa. But I couldn't capture all of that. So maybe that's why I also made it, you know, the little frame that I could capture, I wanted it to feel a little bit extraordinary. So I used colors and I played with colors as I do. And yeah, the light in there was lovely. And there's something about staircases. I don't know exactly what it is, but I do love, as much as I love little spots of light and drapery and fabrics and reflections, also staircases is definitely something there. Then this one is a self-portrait that I took at my old apartment, and I taped my camera, it was a smaller camera I had back then, to my ceiling fan. It was very precarious, but yeah, it was worth it. And I think I like this one because, I mean, the light, but also there's something kind of, you can't really see where it is. Again, like, it's kind of dreamlike in that way where, yeah, you don't know where it's been taken exactly. It's kind of a little bit mysterious and vague in the backdrop. But yeah, I think it just kind of captures almost like, feels like, I don't know, it's a good way to show in a picture what I maybe feel when I'm like going through my photography practice and doing what I like to do, and sort of dreaming up worlds. That's what this photo is giving for me. It's like dreaming up worlds, imagining things and reimagining things, sort of getting a little bit lost and immersed in like this other place, or these other possibilities. So yeah, that's why I chose this one. I chose to add it to the collection. Yeah, this one also feels quite otherworldly to me. I've said escape into a dreamed version, because it feels like that. It feels dreamy. It feels like it's in a dream. Like, if you are lucky enough to have like a really cool dream once in a while, that feels like just interesting and trippy and pretty. And every now and again I have like a cinematic dream, and I felt like this one, with the sort of lack of focus, you know, when I was selecting the images from this shoot, this wasn't the part of the shoot, it was kind of more of an in-between moment. And I just thought, yeah, the sort of blurry focus just gave it this feeling of just being in a dream. So that's pretty much this one. And I just enjoy that it was this in-between space, this sort of liminal space, like in transit, like moving from one place to another, you know, we were literally moving from like one pose or one scene, like to go to the next place in this little nature reserve. But yeah, this one ended up being my favorite from it. So that's it. And then again, some more movement and some more blur and some more liminal kind of in between feeling that I guess is also definitely, as most of the images that I've presented here are like quite still, but I definitely have always been drawn to like movement and the motion blur of, you know, like capturing movement in a photograph. This one was more intentional. Like I think this is like maybe one of the pictures of the series that was actually not the color, but you know, it was a bit more planned. It wasn't just me taking my camera out and like shooting from the hip. It was like actually, you know, I wanted to get the motion blur, so I set up my tripod and then stood against the wall and like shook myself around, and I ended up really liking what I got from it. And then making it, obviously adding a lot of color, making it bright and sort of exaggerated and feel even more dreamy and or I don't know, dreamy. I don't know what I would call this one, but it definitely is, again, that like fast movement, sort of liminal space that gives it a dream-like quality to me. And yeah, it is a self-portrait, and I did feel like, you know, if I want to dig in a little bit to what it might represent at the time, I mean, I think we all always are on some level, but in kind of a transitionary period. And I remember thinking a lot about that at the time, especially when I was, yeah, it was at a time where I was even more drawn to just like crazy movement and like I was trying this out like in a few pictures and trying to capture that in between feeling that I think I was actually feeling a lot back then. So yeah, that's this one. And I've put these two here because they kind of, I just thought they sit nicely next to each other, and they were both photos that I took on my phone when I was away. They were different times and different places, but yeah, there was just something that those were things that tied them together for me. And obviously the kind of complementary colors. You know, the one on the left was walking through a bit of a tunnel of trees one night when I was away on the coast, and then the one on the right was away for my birthday last year, and we were on a boat going along the river, and both of them feel kind of immersive for me, and they were both in like just incredibly beautiful places, and you know, local places that aren't far away, but that you feel like you're just in a whole other world, even though it's like an hour or two from the city. And you just, I don't know, I just remember in both places just feeling very at peace and feeling refreshed and rejuvenated, and just looking around like you just feel little. And yeah, I think with these two, both of them are kind of symmetrical and like feel like you could almost like I don't know, I feel like you could like go into it or go through it. And so I kind of wrote here escape and immersion, and what's already there, just sort of playing on like the conversation of like escape versus engaging and like actually experiencing what's around me or around us. And then this one is another Durban sunrise trip. And it also, along with that first image, in a way feels kind of like spiritual or like religious almost. Obviously the clouds and the light coming through. I don't even know, I don't really know what more to say about this one, but there was just a feeling that I had that morning, and it felt really calm but also inspiring. And I think part of sort of editing photos from that really early morning just felt like I wanted to like encapsulate the feeling that I felt that morning, almost as like a little consciously wanting to remind myself, like, you should do that more. Like you should get up early, go outside, and like just do that more often, kind of thing. So yeah, I definitely wanted to capture that feeling. Yeah, this is also the same place as those blue curtains earlier on in the presentation. And yeah, the curtains and all of this stuff was just my favorite. I've said immersive and present in the act of making because I think I have covered a lot of that, but I definitely played with the colors of the curtains here. I think they were sort of like a dull red at one point. And I exaggerated it, and I really love about this picture the contrast between, again, natural and man-made worlds, and this, like, I'm inside this, well, a boat, so like, you know, I'm inside this room essentially and looking out through a window, through a frame that's natural. That's just a natural element, like such a simple scene. One sec. Cool. Mbusi, I think you wanted to.
Oh, yes. I think there's, oh yeah, this is the last. No, please go to the
Reopen our little window. Sorry about that. Yeah, last one.
Thank you. Please, do you want to share some thoughts on this before we go to the activity that's been happening in the chat? There's a comment, and then Caitlin has a question. So can just take seconds on this one, and then we'll
Cool.
move to the
Really
question.
keep it really brief. Just this one. It's basically, yeah, I flipped this one over and it just, the light, it was really just light that caught my attention here. And then I definitely had a lot of fun like intensifying all of the colors. The smoke felt really elusive and again like just dreamy. It just gave me a feeling. And it also gave me that when I was looking at these again yesterday, thinking about like the childlike wonder again, like almost like glamorizing this ciggy in the hand, or just looking at it in a way that's like, I don't know, like amazing or interesting, or it just got me thinking more about that like childlike wonder, or just looking at things and like ordinary things in this like sort of extraordinary or otherworldly way. Yeah, I think you guys can take the mic with the questions.
Thank you so much, Paige. Firstly, for not being shy, that you like beautiful things and going after beauty. And yeah, thank you very much. So we had some activity in the chat. I'm gonna read out the statement from Keelan. I am sorry if I'm butchering your name. You've told me so many times how to pronounce it, but he made a statement about that image from the dentist. Who, let me just read it. Said,
Can you still see my
"Oh,
screen? No.
yes, yes.
Yes. Oh, good. Okay, cool.
OMG, I went to the same dentist and took a very similar image a few months back.
Oh,
The
what?
the continuity or overlapping of stairs from that position captured my attention. So that's
How cool
cool.
is that dentist building? It was so unexpected. I was so scared to go to the dentist, and then it was like this nice little cherry on top. I was just walking around like, and then it was even better after the anesthetic. I was like walking around like, whoa.
It's a very beautiful image. It's
Oh,
also one of my favorites. I sent a direct message to Neve. I thought I was sending it to the public chat saying I really like this one. But anyway,
oh.
we have a question from Catherine
Cat.
asking, do you see your work as capturing an altered version of reality or as creating an entirely new one?
I think probably a bit of both, depending on the day or the photo. Probably more, it's not that I'm not trying to like alter reality. So maybe creating a new one because I'm not, yeah, consciously trying to like change anything. I am trying to create something new, but I'm using real life as a reference because I can photograph real life. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. It makes sense in my head.
I think it makes sense to the most of us after
Cool.
we.
Hope so.
And then Olani has a statement and also has his hand up, but I will just read this statement and quickly pass the mic on to him, and that will be our last question. He in the chat he wrote, I love this. I love the sunrise photos. I envy you because where I am from, it's building. I have to relocate if I want to see the sunrise or sunset to other provinces. Maybe you can elaborate on that. So, Danny, please unmute and speak briefly before we wrap up.
Hello. Yeah, so the sunrise, I don't know, because I was like, okay, when Paige was still like beginning with the project, Still Dreams, and like I had a lot of questions in my mind and saying, is it what she wishes for, like a dream car or a dream? So now I'm starting to get the vibe of the project, where it's going. I
I'm
think you
glad.
love nature. You love nature.
I do.
Yeah, because you mentioned that you want to, like, I don't know, you yearn to go live in the forest or something like that.
A big part of me, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I envy that, because I cannot do these rituals me myself, even if I feel like my nature demands that, or maybe nature calls. I don't know. Yeah, but then that was the comment for me. I mean, I'm from Gauteng, so
Mm.
when I want to interact with nature, I need to go to the parks.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah, or maybe do
lack of,
some hiking.
yeah.
You know.
Well,
Yeah.
hiking
So
out.
yeah, but again, I had a question. I don't know if I'm saying a lot here. I had a question. I don't know. Should I ask?
Yeah, please ask your question, and Paige will be able to answer you succinctly.
Yeah. So I don't know if, like, I'm understanding your project when I say still dreams is like things you wish for, like your dream car, like your dream house. Because now I'm inspired by your work. You know, like, how do we collaborate now with Captive? Because I'm like, hey, Kolani, you are bothered by nightmares. I mean, dreams
Same.
is, yeah, like, now you inspire me to say I'm a person who's a dreamer, and I've early childhood is like I've been having these nightmares, and I don't know if it's bad dreams or nightmares. Maybe it's like a demon trying to kill you from your sleep. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to understand,
Yeah,
my
it's interesting
being.
that you've mentioned the nightmares, because I really struggle with nightmares. Maybe this whole thing is like me trying to reclaim my dreamscapes or something. I'm like, why? It is actually so opposite to my real life dreams. Um, but I hear you. Yeah, that was just a comment that it made me think about my own like actual dreams. I know I said sometimes like I'll on a lucky night have like a really cool cinematic kind of very much like movie like David Lynch kind of dream. And I'll like go and write it down afterwards. But usually, yeah, I'm with you on the nightmares. Yikes.
Thank you so much, Goladi, for your views and the questions you have asked. So that was wrap of this wonderful presentation by Paige Furness. Thank you to everyone who tuned in, and I hope it was worth your time. Thank you to Paige. Neve, please switch on your video and unmute and do the things.
Oh, well, I don't know. Is there anyone else who has anything they'd like to add and share? I just think, firstly, like Durban is really lucky to have you documenting this space. It really is refreshing. The style, I think it is so unique. And yeah, I think it's really important that this work is known. So thank you for sharing, and also just to say I like your pace of talking. It really was very soothing, and I think it's a good way of reflecting on work. And yeah, I guess I just from the talk, it's a reminder about just the journey of producing work. Sometimes we are at spaces like now you've expressed you're not making as much. Maybe I misunderstood that, but
No, that's it.
yeah, but it's a moment we all go through, and I think these engagements allow us to reflect on, like, you've been able to look at your own work, and thank you for sharing it with us. But yeah, it's just really important that we remember how it's all a process. This moment was important. Looking back at it's important, and what you produce next, however long it takes you to pick up the camera again and get into it, that's fine. That's a new journey. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much. And I love the depth. There's a lot to unpack in your work. And I do think as CAP, we really want to try and bring that criticality to photo makers in KZN, and, you know, write about it, talk about it, look at it. And I think you offered that space today. So thank you very much, Paige.